Hello, everyone. Give me just a second here and we'll get everybody online ready to go. All right, Elijah's here. Can you hear me, Elijah? I hear you typing.
Okay, there you go. I hear you now.
All right,
I got you.
perfect. So we are ready to go. So we've got a severe thunderstorm warning that was issued for basically this storm's pretty much in Franklin County at this point, and storms have been kind of firing off and reaching almost severe limits and pulsing back down right along the Tennessee Alabama border. And so we are live on the call to give you guys everything you need to know. So, with it being a severe thunderstorm warning and wind is the main driver of this one. So, my folks in Huntland probably have had this wind go through, and I'll go ahead real quick, turn over to velocity, and really not seeing a ton right now, but that's what happens with these suckers. They'll pulse up and then they'll pulse back down. So um, we'll
Are we
still.
good to go ahead and post on my Facebook and stuff, restream?
Oh yeah, oops, here I am talking. Yes, go ahead. Yeah, when I pulled you in like that, go ahead. Well, the
Okay.
people, hey, the people in the app got a little bit of a preview here, so you let me know.
Let me make sure. Okay, there we go. Oh, that looks good. Yeah. All right. Gonna go on Facebook. I had to change the name of it
Gotcha.
and restart my restream and everything else. But
And that
I think
lovely.
we got. Yeah, I'll be honest, that storm doesn't look overly impressive to me. But
Not right now. It doesn't. It did. I think it was one of those where it pulsed up just enough on a scan or two, and it's done. It's already fallen apart.
yeah.
Um. So are we good on the Facebook side?
Yes, I
Uh,
believe that we are on live there.
Perfect. All right. Well, that's good. All right. Well, we want to welcome everybody in. Those of you that were already in the app, you kind of got a little of a preview about how things run. We have to the app goes first, and then all the other social stuff comes next. But we've had a severe thunderstorm warning pop off here for basically the southern extent of Franklin County. Storms have been in the area. They've pulsed. They've reached severe limits. They were severe, fizzled before they got to our viewing area. And this is kind of the first one of, I don't know, we'll just have to wait and see how many actually hit. But a lot of the activity's really just been on the Tennessee Alabama state line. It seems to be where the storm's initiation is happening. And so, really and truthfully, if you were hearing on the app, Elijah and I were just kind of talking back and forth about this particular storm. And yes, it is severe. It's supposed to go until 9:45 tonight and producing 60-mile-an-hour winds. But when we go now and look at velocity from Huntsville, there's really not a lot there. This our radar product filters out a lot of the smaller wind speeds, stuff we just really don't need to look at. So that way, when we're looking at velocity, we can really pinpoint where the area of most concern is. And really, if anything, that would be probably over here, but it's not even hitting 20 miles an hour. So I really think this storm. I mean, he's laughing because I think this storm has kind of fallen apart. To be quite honest with you.
Yeah, it's I think it pulsed up a little bit there, and there can be a chance that sometimes, when we have these severe thunderstorms that pulse up so quickly and come back down, they can have some a little downburst that forms and develops in between radar scans. But if truthfully speaking here, I do not believe at this point that this storm is necessarily at severe limits, at least if we're using the 60 plus mile per hour winds and the quarter sized hail that you need to have for a severe thunderstorm. Um, and I'm looking here at the Weather Service chat room, and I have not seen anything in particular at this moment about this particular storm. They're putting out some Dollar General severe thunderstorm warnings a little bit further towards the north there in Lynchburg and Moore County and northern Lincoln County, but nothing out of the ordinary, right this moment in with that storm there around Huntland, and you can see compared to that storm in Huntland on and how that storm over there in southern Lawrence County looks.
Yes,
It's a night and day difference. Oh, and there's a new severe thunderstorm warning just came out there for that activity. So, but that's definitely that's big time stormage right there off to our
absolutely.
west. But the stuff that we're seeing here right now is just not overly impressive at this moment.
Absolutely. And you can't really get better of a radar look than where this storm is, because you can see where the Huntsville radar site is literally right at its doorstep. So you're
Right
getting a
on
really
top
good
of it.
look. Some lightning has kind of pulsed back up toward the northern extent, but really and truthfully, we go over here, you can definitely see all that lightning again right there. Like I said, on the Tennessee Alabama line, that seems to be where most of these storms are firing off. So what'll have to be seen is if this storm, will it have enough strength to kind of make it through into maybe Lincoln County in parts and still be severe? Well, history tells us right now, probably not, but we'll never say never, because, otherwise I'll just have shoestrings hanging out of my mouth. But yeah, that's pretty much the most severe on radar. So again, they still carry that severe thunderstorm warning. So, if you guys are in that Huntland area, you're going to notice that the storm is traveling incredibly slow. Okay, so I think that was at 15 miles an hour is how fast that storm was going. So, I mean, I'm a big boy. I could probably get out there and run with that storm at some point, for at least like 20 feet. And
Yeah, yeah. It's not moving very quick at all. The You can see though the lightning is starting to increase there with at least that northern Huntland portion. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. I'm looking at some stuff here on my end too. It does look like that the storm just outside of Peter, or just it's actually right over top of Petersburg in a northwestern Lincoln County is starting to pulse up a little bit, at least in the in some of the higher tilts on the radar. Which I don't know if you know how to control that and change the tilts on that, but we can do that a different time. But it does look like that there is a nice little core starting to develop over top of Petersburg. So we'll have to keep a close eye on that one there over the next little bit, as that kind of skirts the Lincoln and Marshall County line. But that's not severe at this moment. And then, like Christopher said, we are going to have to keep a close eye on the thunderstorms off to our west. If you kind of look over the past like 30 minutes worth of radar loop, the storm is actually kind of moving northeastward, which is a little different from the storms we have right now, almost moving due east. These are kind of moving a little bit further north, like have a more northern and easterly component to them. So it'll be interesting to see how those continue to evolve over the next hour or so. But I definitely feel like that the best chance for storms is going to be Lincoln, Moore, Franklin County for this evening. I mean, I definitely could see a couple straggler storms making their way up into Marshall, Bedford, maybe Coffee and Grundy as well. But there's going to be a lot of activity that misses our northern communities this evening.
absolutely. And you go back to the past couple of days when we start looking at where they kind of outlined that slight risk, right? The level two. It was
Hmm.
more for, until really today, where they kind of bumped it a little bit farther north to include like Tullahoma, parts of Bedford and Coffee counties. Really, the activity had been centered more toward the Alabama line and into Alabama. And so we were on the fringe of that anyway. And it seems to be holding pretty true. And the models held pretty true. We looked several hours ago and looking at about 9 o'clock, we talked about between 8 and 9 o'clock. So the models weren't lying when they said that this is when we would start seeing those storms. And so, um,
Yeah.
even though we don't have that daytime heating, we still have enough oomph in the atmosphere to be able to produce these storms. And so, again, I see, if anything, the strengthening. It's almost like the storm split, and the strengthening seems to be on that Huntland, kind of almost split Huntland there, like a 7-10 split at the bowling alley. But it seems to
That
be
that's a bona fide split right there, right over top of town.
I- I- I-
That that's
exactly.
that's one of those you take personally. That kind of storm split you take personally if that happens to you. uh,
Exactly.
I am watching it here on the. I'm watching the lightning here on the Lynchburg camera, and we are getting a ton of lightning now. A pretty nice lightning show off of that storm just north of Huntland, and it actually we're up to 11 strikes in the past, or 11 strikes in the past minute with this storm in just south of Lynchburg, right over top of northern portions of Huntland there. So it's a very electrical thunderstorm. You can see some of the rain shafts coming down out of that thunderstorm as well. And of course, it decides to switch switch back off to the Petersburg storm once we got on it. These has cams here are actually run on they can be automated where they turn automatically, and I forgot to turn off the automated the turning of the cameras here. So it's turned now, looking at the storm that's over top of Petersburg right now, off towards the north and the east, or north and west, excuse me. But there's a lot of lightning. There's no doubt about that. The clouds are lighting up right now with a lot of thunder and lightning in the Lynchburg area right now, and then all the way down into Huntland as well. We do
Abs-
have. I wanted to also tell you we have some folks joining in from Lawrenceburg, I think, this evening in the Pulaski area. So we'll go ahead and look over there if you want to, Christopher, at that severe thunderstorm warning we have in effect there. Kind of it's not really much going on in our traditional coverage area, so we might as well hop over that way if you want to and see what's going on there
That's
with
definitely, yeah. There we
with
go.
that severe thunderstorm. It definitely has a good core on it right along US 43 there, just north of Loretto. 106 lightning strikes within the past 10 to 15 minutes. It's fairly impressive, and we have another 45 minutes here on this severe thunderstorm warning for both Giles and Lawrence County. Basically, the southern half of Lawrence County and then the southwestern half of Giles County. So we're talking about Lawrenceburg, Loretto, and then over towards Weekly Creek and those areas down through there. So definitely a very intense thunderstorm there, right over top of Loretto. Right now, probably getting some gusty winds upwards of 60 miles an hour. A little bit high off the radar site there, but
Sure.
it's showing some winds there upwards of 40 to 50
Absolutely.
pretty easily. So there definitely could be some higher gusts within that thunderstorm because and I think we need to we owe our audience a clarification here because when we look at storm winds like we're looking at right now
Here, I'll
on
go
the
back.
radar and we're sampling those storm winds, we're looking at what the radar is sampling. These are not ground truth, though these aren't gusts that occur at the ground or not occurring at the ground right now, right? These are just gusts that the radar is picking up on, but they're not observed gusts at the ground. So it's important to keep that in mind when we're looking at these wind gusts in storm winds inside of a thunderstorm. We're not really looking at the winds at the surface. We're looking at winds well up in the atmosphere. And from Lawrenceburg, we're looking at the winds thousands, tens of thousands of feet up in the atmosphere too, because they're
Absolutely.
fairly far away from the Huntsville radar there in Lawrenceburg.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely. And as those winds get pulled down out of the storm out into the lower part of the atmosphere, they do increase. And so you can't look at that and say 48 miles an hour. Oh man, that's not severe thunderstorm, potential. Well, again, like he said, this area anyway is under a almost what I would call radar hole. It is so far away from the Huntsville site. It's really far away from the OHX there in Nashville, and then Columbus Air Force Base it's almost on the outer ring of all of this. And so yes, that's why a lot of times that if they see these numbers, they're going to say, well, that's really high up in the atmosphere. Let's go ahead and call that warning. Let's be on the safe side with that. And it's definitely, of all the storms, if I back out here for just a minute and we can look at more of a regional view, that is definitely in large part the most active storm on radar. It's pretty easy to tell.
Absolutely, yeah. There's so that I mean, all those lightning strikes are kind of centered right over top of southern Lawrence County and then southwestern Giles County as well. But over this way, we still have some stronger storms. The one just north of Huntland and just south of Huntland kind of split us in half there. And then, if you want to, Christopher, let's zoom in on the storm just outside of Petersburg in northwestern
Sure.
Lincoln County there, and we'll take a look.
All right. Velocity. Let's
So
see.
that's the thunderstorm there, and it's
It's
fairly
not
stout with the lightning activity,
lightning.
but
Yeah.
it's not very good with the storm winds. Only looking at maybe 10 to 20 miles per hour right now. So not too crazy there um, with the wind gust within that particular storm, but that is moving kind of northeasterly. So southern Bedford County probably going to get a little bit of a good thunder shower here after a while, an early night boomer, as I like to call them sometimes. So just keep an eye on that over the next little bit, but it's not strong or even remotely close to being strong at this point,
No.
at least from what we can see on the radar.
And I'm gonna tell you that 710 split, when it split, I've been kind of looking at the corner of my eye down here at this one, and it has shown once it split, it's got a little bit more organized. That severe thunderstorm warning, that's really almost if I would say the strongest part of the storm. And I'll go back real quick and just see if there's any velocity that's any count. It looks like most of that's going to be centered down here, even though that's probably not. Yeah, that's not very much not very much at all, but definitely from the reflectivity side, definitely where those hot pinks are, and even parts right here where it's starting to get that really deep black, almost some of the highest returns. It definitely has strengthened, but of course that's Jackson County. That's not in our area. But I would say probably the strongest of this storm, my Franklin County people, would just be north here of 64, kind of heading toward Belvedere, that kind of area. Looks like it's going, this is kind of tracked more northeast as well, kind of like that storm over there in Lincoln County around the Petersburg area. So if it kind of continues on that track, Winchester, even though you're not in the severe thunderstorm warning, this storm, as it approaches, it may approach you guys here shortly, well, 15 miles an hour. It may when I say shortly, it may take a minute. So, but it is definitely showing that northeast component. But yeah,
And
I know.
sometimes when you have those storm splits like we're seeing there, sometimes the northern storm can actually be a little bit of a hail producer. Now, I'm not saying any huge type of hail there, but there definitely could be some dime penny sized hail as that storm moves into Winchester. And thankfully, we have two cameras in Winchester and then one in Cowan as well, so we'll be able to get some good eyes on this storm here momentarily with the many different sky cameras we have with our Skycam network. So that will be very good to have access to. There's a
Absolutely.
couple folks in the Facebook chat that are asking about different places, like what about Wartrace and what about Shelbyville and places like that. So right now we're mostly centered on our southern counties, so more Franklin and Lincoln County, but there is a little activity that is starting to develop. It even looks like there's some new activity starting to develop closer to Lewisburg as well. But there's some thunderstorm activity we're watching that'll be moving into Bedford County over the next little bit, but nothing severe at this moment for our folks in Bedford County. Actually, the only severe thunderstorm warning we have in our specific coverage area is for southern Franklin County. We do have a severe thunderstorm warning just off to our west, including Giles County and Lawrence County. But at least for the time being, everything is a-okay right now in our coverage area. Besides that little storm right going into Belvedere right now, right along US 64.
Absolutely. Yeah, that kind of is the bullseye, if you will, for our viewing area. And I will also note, a lot of people are asking about their specific city. Don't get your hopes up tonight that you actually may see rain. Not everybody will. This is still pretty scattered. And really, if I go back and look at this again, with it going 15 miles an hour, it's slow going. So if it hits you, you're definitely going to see some heavy rain. And I would probably gather to say, probably over there in Giles County where that severe thunderstorm warning is, it would not surprise me if they go with a flash flood warning eventually. That's a lot of rain. That's a high rainfall rate over there, just kind of plummeting the same area over and over again. And so we also have to watch for that. But again, parts of us, Tullahoma, Coffee County, we're clear. Grundy County, we're clear right now. Again, the focus area really is for the most severe is over there in western parts of Franklin County, just north of Huntland on 64, headed toward Belvedere. And then we've got a storm that they just went ahead. Looks like the Nashville office went ahead with a Timu severe thunderstorm warning over here, or a Dollar General severe thunderstorm warning. I mean, excuse me, yeah, special weather statement, and that includes the southern half of Bedford County and the pretty much the southeast corner there of Marshall County, just where Elijah was talking about 4 minutes ago. They went ahead and decided to go ahead and put that one as a special weather statement.
Yeah, so I was looking in the chat room here, and they're noting that a little bit of activity is starting to grow in that area, and I'm thinking that that's a good call to go ahead and put out that Dollar General severe thunderstorm warning there for portions of southern Bedford County, and I think that the right now with that the strongest core of that little line that's trying to form there, I guess for lack of a better word, it's not a very good line, but it looks like that the core of that storm is going to get pretty close to Shelbyville the way that it's moving right now. Could be in the Shelbyville area here within the next 30 minutes or so. These are slow movers, so it's going to take a little bit of time for it to get there. But it looks like that, at least for right now, the strongest portion of that storm is going to come pretty close to Shelbyville. Maybe some 40 to 50 mile per hour wind gusts, and of course, if it strengthens anymore, we could be talking about, maybe a potential for a severe thunderstorm. But at least for right now, it doesn't look like it's quite at that strength.
No, it's right now they've got it pegged at 40 miles an hour wind gusts, and this storm has kind of sped up a little bit. Nashville's got it sitting at 30 miles an hour, so I went ahead and kind of gave just a quick little scan of that one particular part that you were just referencing, and kind of putting it in a northeast track here. And so you can see here on the screen, you guys in Bedford County, because I know a lot of you guys watch us, and so there's pretty much all the times that you would be seeing. So pretty much before 9:45, it's going to be hitting Wartrace, and then of course Shelbyville Airport's outside of that at 9:32. So we'll be able to get a pretty good look at that one from the decent camera.
Yes, we'll have a very good look at the decent camera with that one, and I can actually go ahead and start getting some of these cameras in position for us here
Absolutely.
whenever it's time. So that's a good thing about having a tag team. I can, we're able to control different stuff from behind the scenes too, instead of just running all over the place. So just taking a quick overview here of everything. I'm looking at a different radar on my side, just to try to figure out here. It does look like that storm is between Lexi Crossroads and Belvedere in southern Franklin County. Still looks fairly stout. And it's probably, still has some good lightning with it, and the core of the storm is fairly stout as well. And that's moving right up into Winchester here momentarily. Winchester, Estill Springs, Deckard. If it's moving about 30 miles per hour at the same speed of that storm that's moving into Shelbyville, it'll be in Winchester in 10 minutes. It's not going to
Absolutely.
take very long for it to get to Winchester.
Absolutely not. And that'd be the south side of all you guys there at Tim's Ford. So I'll bring this over where you can let me zoom out here a little bit. There we go. You can see a little better. So that kind of give you an idea of kind of when. So he said about 9:25, so about 10, 14 minutes or so. And this storm will be in Winchester proper. And so anywhere in and around that area within the next 15 to 20 minutes,
Mhm.
to kind of give you an idea of where that's headed. So definitely it's not staying inside the lines, but then again, it's really not at severe limits. So that's why they're not deciding to go ahead with that severe thunderstorm warning and include it for that portion of the storm that's kind of exited the polygon. And that's what happens sometimes, especially when that storm split. I don't think when they issued that severe thunderstorm warning that they saw the likelihood of that happening. That happens sometimes with these storms. So anyways, so that's pretty much one of the healthiest looking storms on radar, and then right up here again. So while we're not seeing a ton of severe weather, we're definitely seeing some strong storms to say the least. And that's typical of a marginal risk day. Storms are going to be strong. A couple of them decide to start misbehaving. They pop off a severe thunderstorm warning. And some days, like a couple days ago, they was all over the place. It can really catch you off guard too if you're not careful. So,
Mhm.
but really, again, to me, the healthiest looking storm, just looking at what our coverage area is right now, it is that going to be that storm just south there, Tim's Ford Lake. And I've definitely seen the lightning activity really hasn't decreased with it. If anything, it's increased ever so slightly. That sometimes can be an indicator of the strength of the storm. So these aren't
The
necessarily
storm core in the upper levels is starting to increase fairly substantially with that storm. I'm looking at the tilt 4 there
okay.
off of high top just on my radar scope,
Sure.
and it's got some good reflectivity values in there. So I honestly at this point I wouldn't be overly surprised if they ended up putting out a new severe thunderstorm warning here with that thunderstorm. But I'm not sure right now if it's at severe limits, but it's approaching it fairly quickly here, coming into the greater Winchester metropolitan area, for lack of a better word, here in the next couple moments.
Yeah, you're right.
Uh,
You're right. I'm using Weatherfront over here off camera, and it does definitely. It's definitely got some pretty high returns, especially. Um, this is what happens when you have bad eyes. Just around the state route, 121. It's basically just south of Highway 50. You guys, if you're in Franklin County, you guys know that area very well. Connects Lynchburg to Winchester. That's where the dam is. And so that's kind of centered right over that particular area of where kind of the highest strength of the storm is growing. And so that's what you do. You
mhm.
have to look higher up in the atmosphere. What you're looking at right now is 0.5 degrees. That's the lowest tilt, and so definitely when you're looking at tornadoes, that kind of thing, you obviously start mid levels, but then you want to look obviously at the ground level because that's what's going to give you that kind of tornado warning. It's where you're going to know the winds are rotating. Nothing like that tonight. That's not even really much of a concern. If anything, it's going to be wind event. And so it looks like they just cut that part of the storm out of the severe thunderstorm warning and kept the one on the bottom. Is what it looks like.
Yes, they got rid of the southern or the northern portion of the warning there, and they're going to keep it for Anderson Sherwood down there along State Route 56, right there at the state line, following along the CSX railroad. But other than that, it's very rural, unpopulated area of Franklin County that warning is for at this point.
Right.
Very rural.
And you would agree, even too, the majority of that storm that probably warrants the severe thunderstorm warning is south of the Tennessee border. Anyway, you've got that one little
Yeah,
cell, and of
yeah.
course, there's a lot of it's a lot of what's the word I'm looking for? A lot of distortion right here because this is going really over the radar site, and so
Hmm.
that can also often sometimes give you some false returns. It's not the clearest indication of what's happening, but the majority of that storm looks to be south of the Tennessee border. So there's a little part up here, but kind of in that Lakeview area, just south of Tree Forks and South City, just north of the walls of Jericho and all that, in northern Alabama. And so, again, most of that's just to the south. And you're right, this is very unpopulated area. Not a lot of roads up here, and that's not even including Sherwood, unless they have gone with another SPS I don't know about. Oh, they did. They went ahead and
Yes, the
included.
new that new SPS is for the strong storm coming right into Winchester,
Right.
or right along the shores of Timms Ford Lake there. So we have a new TMU or Dollar General severe thunderstorm warning that is in effect here for that storm that's right over top of Belvedere, Lexi Crossroads, about to come up into Broadview and Winchester here within the next couple moments. Tabitha Hawkins in Petersburg just reported that she had some hail there in Petersburg, which is not surprising at all to me, based off the core of that storm. So probably I wouldn't say it was anything major there, but probably had some maybe some pea-sized hail there with that storm, and that's the storm that's moving up into southwestern Bedford County, and then eventually going to move into central Bedford County as well.
Right. I had somebody ask about questions in East Tennessee, even though we don't really follow. There are some storms over here in East Tennessee. I know Knoxville was under a severe thunderstorm warning. These storms right here would probably not be expected to make it over to East Tennessee. They just don't have enough umph in the atmosphere and especially enough shear to be able to carry those over into East Tennessee. But East Tennessee has had some severe thunderstorm warnings and special weather statements over there, but I wouldn't expect that. I had somebody on my page ask me about that. So we're 3 hours away from that. So this isn't quite the setup for that. It's these are going to pulse up. The longer we get into the evening, these things are just going to die down naturally, kind of as they do in the summer. As I was joking with Elijah earlier today, I was like, "Who would have thunk in August we would be having this kind of severe weather coverage?" Right? It's been a very interesting month and really July into August. Just the number of times we've talked about severe weather or flooding or something like that. It's been very interesting compared to what we talked about in the springtime, which wasn't really a ton, other than that April
Yeah.
27th, 28th day where we were up to 4 a.m. Um, but that's about it.
Yeah, it hasn't been that much activity at all, or severe activity anyway. There's been a lot of storms, but just not severe weather, which I'm definitely not complaining about because the
Amen.
less severe weather we have, the less destruction and everything else that comes with it. So I'm happy about that. Absolutely. Taking a look here at let's zoom into that storm there in just southwest of Shelbyville
Sure, let's go.
because I would have I have a feeling that here in a moment we're going to get a lot of Shelbyville viewers that start to pile in here because we're live and there's a thunderstorm that's going to be right over top of them. So we'll probably get a couple shovel folks oh, to join in here momentarily. Right now, the strongest core of the storm is right over top of State Route 130, kind of right there um, near Snell Road, where Liberty School comes in, and also Pleasant Grove, Branchville, places like that. Over towards Mount Hermon, getting a little bit of that stronger activity. But the worst of the storm is definitely coming right over top of Pleasant Grove, and this storm is going to kind of ride right up State Route 130 into Shelbyville. So get ready for a stronger thunderstorm. We're not talking about severe thunderstorm warning or anything like that right this moment, but we're keeping a very close eye on it as it continues to push into Bedford County over the next little bit here. So if you go ahead and check on the velocity data.
I mean, it's enough, like a 40-mile-an-hour gust or something like that. Kind of
Yeah.
exactly what the when they issued the special weather statement in their product, what they wrote up was about 40 miles an hour. So definitely you could see some gusty winds out of this, and it seems to be the core of that is right there in that Pleasant Grove area. Kind of like Elijah said, it's kind of traveling northeast. So that gust of wind, gusty winds could probably go right into downtown Shelbyville there.
Yes, and taking a look at that storm wind, that data right there,
Yeah, I'll go
it
back.
almost looks like we may have it may have a little downburst signature showing up there. So not only do reds and greens close together sometimes indicate where we have rotation, but reds and greens close together can also indicate where we have a potential for a downburst.
Yep.
And in this particular instance, this will be a downburst that we're looking at here on the radar. Now, it's hard for the radar to really pick up on the strength of the winds within a downburst because a lot of times the strongest winds don't occur until the downburst actually hits the ground. We could be getting a little downburst developing here right over top of Pleasant Grove. Could be getting some, 50. I'm not going to say 60-mile-an-hour winds, but could be up there close to severe criteria if these downburst winds are actually making it to the ground. And lightning is still pretty stout on this storm. 18, so I guess it's 16 strikes within the past 10 to 15 minutes here. So it's still a very stout thunderstorm as it moves into southern portions of Shelbyville over the next 5 to 10 minutes here.
Right, and that special weather statement goes to 9:45, so it's got about another 20 minutes or so on that, and it'll definitely be to Shelbyville by then. And so that probably looks to be one of the strongest. Starting to see that core again, right where you were talking about. I'm kind of going back and forth between both of those storms that you talked about. Really, there, if we're being honest, we are talking about storms that are strong but have not reached severe limits. Most of that, even the storms down here in Giles and Lawrence counties, there's parts of the storm that are still strong, but it's kind of weakened way more than it did 15, 20 minutes ago. And really,
Yeah.
the only storm that's warranting a severe thunderstorm warning is right here at the Tennessee Alabama line, with a majority of that storm going right over the radar in high top as pretty much as we speak, the leading edge of it at least. And so, really,
Hmm.
all of these storms that we're seeing down here in our coverage area, they're not severe. They're strong. I mean, it doesn't take much to blow down a limb or a part of a tree with 40 miles an hour winds if it hits it just right. But all of these are really below limits. And so I'm really starting to see, even though we've got some pretty higher returns, kind of where you were talking about a minute ago with the higher tilt in the atmosphere, right centered over pretty much where Highway 50 is, just south of it. The lightning has dropped off quite a bit on that storm. It wasn't big to begin with. There wasn't a tremendous amount of lightning, but it's really kind of dwindled down just a little bit. Whereas the storm to the north seems to be kind of holding its own up there.
Yeah, the thunderstorm there coming into Winchester isn't overly impressive, but you still could be getting a little bit of small hail. I think with some of the reflectivity returns I'm seeing in that area with some of those pinks, could be seeing a little bit of small hail in that region coming up on a Broadview, right there where Mansford and Lynchburg Road come in together there, over towards Cole Lane and Mingo Road. But it's not severe. We're not talking about huge quarter-sized hailstones or anything like that. Looking here on the Shelbyville camera, if you want to bring it up here for just a moment, we actually have a little shelf cloud starting to come into view. It's not overly impressive, but it's a shelf cloud that we're seeing here on the Shelbyville camera as this storm continues to push in. And there's a lot of lightning. This storm is very electrical as it pushes in out of the southwest into town here in Shelbyville. So this is our camera in Deason, on top of the second tallest hill in Bedford County. So we're at about 1,200 feet above sea level. Once you count in the tower, it's close to 1,300 feet above sea level, which is pretty impressive for Bedford County, because Bedford County is not very high. There's not very many high points in Bedford County, so getting a camera up this high is very impressive. And we can see a little shelf cloud there in showing up at the bottom of the cloud base. It's not overly impressive, but it's there at least. And that is a good sign of some wind gusts that may be occurring here with this thunderstorm as it moves into Shelbyville proper.
Absolutely. It is. It's quite the lightning show there, especially this time of the evening. And it really doesn't seem. I'm looking at. I'm just going to keep it on this for just a minute because I've got radar in front of me, and again, the lightning returns doesn't really seem to drop off. It's not been super electric like one of the storm we had over in Manchester. What was that, last week and a half ago? But definitely, it's something to light up the sky. And if you're one of those people that enjoy a good thunderstorm as you go to sleep, you don't need to put your Sharper Image 1995 sound machine going. Okay, you can get the real deal tonight. So I'll go.
Yes, it is. This storm is producing a lot of lightning and a lot of thunder. Absolutely. Now, one thing that is important to note with this thunderstorm here is that there is a little bit of outflow that's starting to come out ahead of the thunderstorm. So we're probably not going to see this storm increase in strength much more than what it is right now, because that outflow is going to cut off some of the warm and humid air that the storm needs access to, to be able to maintain its strength. So I'm not really expecting this storm to increase in strength very much, but what's going on right now in Pleasant Grove, places just south of there, probably getting a pretty good gust of wind here. We actually do have a small power outage. Well, it's actually just one customer here, or one member here with Duck River Electric that just came in here off of this storm in the Pleasant Grove area along State Route 130. So it's may have a few little power outages and things like that as this storm comes through, which is not uncommon at all with how electrical something like this is. These thunderstorms are very electrical this evening.
Absolutely. It's beautiful to watch though, and very. very nice to have these cameras. You're not going to get this anywhere else, to have these kind of cameras to be able to see the weather. That is the main thing I had been advocating for forever. Is the more cameras, the better. Radar can only show you so much. You can see it right there on the screen what is going on, and so
Hmm.
that is tremendous. So it's very thankful that we have that. Like I said, no, you can't get that anywhere else. Now I'm gonna go back to, let's see here. I'm gonna pull this back and get out. Oh, that happens every once in a while. It'll go out when it gets every once in a while. I got to refresh it. All right, I got to figure out this. I have got this where I've got the temperatures because I was going to go to do the power outages, and then there was nothing. And then I'm like, how do I get it back to the radar? Let's see here, here, but nothing's happening. Is there a magic button I need to hit?
So if there's no power outages showing up, then that means that the power outages are low enough that they can't show up
Sure.
on the system there. So
Right.
that's good news if we're not seeing it show up. If you want to click the X button there
Oh, that's
at
it.
the top,
That's it.
yes, yes,
That's
it
it. Okay. There
should
we go.
clear it off.
Now we're back. Gotcha. Okay. There we go. Well, it's live, not Memorex. Those of you that are old enough, you know that old saying. So again, let me go back out and look at this again. Winchester, we'll come back down here and kind of go tag team back and forth between Shelbyville and Winchester. Looks like the strongest of that rain just south of Broadview, almost right there, just hovering, just really just south of 50, headed into Winchester, where oh, there we go. And right there where that little where the hot pink goes black, just right there just north of Cole Lane and Lynchburg Road, you may see a little bit of hail out of that. It's not anything that's warranting a severe thunderstorm warning, but that would definitely be the strongest part of the storm there. I mean, right on the edge. Honestly, by the time we get that return back, it's probably on Highway 50. So, just right there south of the lake, right there in the vicinity of the dam. So that's kind of where we're at right there with the strongest of that. Still a lot of rain going up 64. So headed into Winchester. And Winchester, you're starting to see some of that heavy rain move into your area right now. And then we'll zoom back out here and just see the full picture. So that little one of those special weather statements they've allowed to expire. This severe thunderstorm warning goes to 9:45, 15 minutes more. I'm gonna look and see real quick if Huntsville said anything about this. I don't think they have.
No, I haven't. I have not seen anything in particular from Huntsville.
Mm-mm.
Some people are asking if this storm is going to move into Coffee County, the one that's over Shelbyville. There's a good chance that it will at least hit portions of Coffee County, especially northern Coffee. But we still have a little bit of time before it gets to us there in Coffee County. So, you don't want to put the cart before the horse when with the storm tracks with these kinds of scenarios, because they can pulse up and pulse down so quickly in these summertime type environments that we have. But people are saying that the wind is starting to pick up in Shelbyville right now, and that is a pretty good indication that that outflow boundary is starting
Yes,
to come in Shelbyville right now before the rain gets there. So the outflow boundary, the rain cooled air is pushing out ahead of the thunderstorm, creating some gustier winds moving into downtown Shelbyville, and then the rain is going to lag behind by probably 5 minutes or so as the storm continues to push off. Reflectivity has come down a little bit in the past 5 or 10 minutes. You can see it pretty nicely there with that radar loop, where it started out pretty stout core with a lot of purples mixed in, and we're starting to lose some of those purples there. So I think the storm may be on the downtrend as it
absolutely.
comes into Shelbyville proper, but we're definitely going to keep an eye on it still. Not severe, still just a special weather statement, a Dollar General severe thunderstorm warning here. So nothing too crazy with the with this storm, and it's not severe warned at this moment.
Absolutely. And I totally agree with that assessment. It's dying out. The lightning has decreased. Shelbyville's getting the outflow boundary. So this storm has lived a good life. but it's not going to get any more strength than it had right there. So the people that were in western Bedford County, you got the brunt of that storm, literally. And looking back here, seems to be that storm has fizzled out. And whereas, not that it's any stronger than it has been, but it seems to be that
Mhm.
core right there. If I can try to get them in the same shot here, there we go. So if you look at both of those storms, definitely probably the one in Winchester now, over there, just south of Tens Ford Lake, right there on Highway 50. That's probably the strongest storm right now, on radar. I can run real quick just for giggles. Um, yeah, I didn't really think there was anything to be superly impressive with those winds. 22, you may get a gust of 30 out of that. I don't know what the text product said. It probably said 35 or 40-mile-an-hour winds, probably at something like that.
Yeah,
Um,
it I think it was actually at 50, but
a
it's
50.
probably closer to 40 is what we're seeing there with that storm.
Yeah, at
I
this
do
point.
I do have an update there with with the Duck River Electric outage. So that one member that was without power, it ended up updating on the outage viewer. Now we're up to 71 members without power. As this storm came, it's most of the outages are between Belfast and Richmond Pike there in southern Bedford County or
Gotcha.
southwestern Bedford County, really. But it doesn't look overly concerning there. Besides the 71 members without power there,
Gotcha.
with and that's really the only reports I've gotten. There's small hail and then just a few little scattered outages here and there with this particular thunderstorm.
And honestly, that's any nothing more than we would expect in something like this. And even if you
Yeah.
look over here, just looking at the bigger view, that storm that was pretty gnarly in parts of Lawrence and Giles County. While there's a northern extent up there that's issued that special weather statement, the brunt of it is definitely up and down 72 there, past Decatur, going over to Florence in that area, and Athens. So you can see where the energy is right now. And like I said, strong enough to warrant special weather statements for us, but really the strongest storms are down there in parts of North Alabama now.
Hmm.
Um,
Yep.
I
And
would,
we still have that severe thunderstorm warning in far southern Franklin
yeah,
County. That is for a storm that's not even across the line, really.
right. I
But
think they're just going to let
they're
that one ride
still,
out.
yeah, they'll leave that one up until 9:45 with that particular thunderstorm warning there in Franklin County. But the worst of the storm right over top of Winchester right now, with the heavy rainfall, lightning, maybe some gustier winds upwards of 40 miles per hour, but nothing severe at this point that we can see.
Yeah, and even some of those returns over here, they've kind of weakened that Broadview area. Even though there's still some hot pinks, it wasn't what it was a couple of returns ago. So definitely, probably like the storm that's in Bedford County, it has pulsed up. It got as strong as it
Mhm.
could, and it's probably on its way of dying out. Still going to be some heavy winds. The lightning is pretty much non-existent at this point. There's a couple of strikes, 7 strikes over the past 10 minutes, but not anything that's just overly impressive, really. It's just some good heavy rain, a couple bolts of lightning, and if you're in the right part of the storm, just some gusty winds. And that's really the extent of that particular storm. So you guys in Deckard, going up 41A, you guys will be hit with this in the next 10 to 15 minutes or so, as it
Mhm.
makes its track. It's tracking basically just it's been traveling up 64. The kind of the center line of that storm has been, and so Estill, you'll probably get that on the southern side of the city. Even though parts, like I said, parts of probably the northern extent, the farther you go up 41A toward Tullahoma, you may not see very much. And the folks that were talking about Coffee County, um, you could probably see that southern extent that's over the northern part of Moore County reach you. But again, if these storms are kind of dying out, they're just going to be a good lightning strike, a good thunder bumper, maybe a couple of times. But even at that, as I zoom out, and I clicked on the wrong thing. it's 12 lightning strikes with all these storms right now. If anything, this storm right here that I'm looking, well, let me bring it down here. That storm right there on the backside of this has started to show a little bit of signs of just some lightning there, just to the north, to the west northwest of Huntland, kind of riding 64's the other storm's coattails there. But that storm is going into an environment that's been worked over anyway. I don't really expect that to do very much at all. That storm that's in Winchester pretty much took everything out of it as far as umped in the atmosphere. But kind of go back and just kind of hit the home button and kind of see the view here. And so we've got about 7 minutes here. That one's going to go to 10 o'clock. I guess they've reissued that one out to 10. This one goes to 9:45. So I would assume that because these storms have kind of decreased in strength, probably wouldn't see them extending a special weather statement any farther than what they have now.
No, and if they do, it'll be very short fused. I think just based off of just some random radar trends that happen over the next 10 minutes or so that we're not seeing that on our end. But I think once this severe thunderstorm warning expires in southern Franklin County, we can probably cut back to regular programming with our Southern Tennessee Weather Channel and just let that kind of ride it out for the next little bit. Because if there's no severe thunderstorm warnings, and even the special weather statement storms don't look very impressive here.
No.
So I don't want to just sit here and bore everyone with talking about random run of the mill summertime storms. There is still that storm just north of Lawrenceburg is looks awfully nice. At least with it has a lot of reflectivity, a strong reflectivity with it there, in that area just north of or between Etheridge and Lawrenceburg along US 43. Pretty good little thunderstorm there, but not technically severe. That severe thunderstorm warning is still in effect, but I don't think that warning is really valid at this point for the storms that are currently ongoing.
Absolutely. No,
um,
that's more south of the Alabama border at this point. Absolutely.
Yeah, and there's some pretty good looking, um, reflectivity cores on a lot of these storms that are moving through this evening, but just nothing severe. Nothing severe. Let me check and see if we have. Okay, so the storm in Winchester now we have a 326 member outage with Duck River Electric along Altwalt Drive and on the south shores of Timms Ford Lake right now. And
Okay.
that was right where that deeper reflectivity core was a
Absolutely.
couple
Yeah.
minutes ago, kind of right over top of State Route 50, just to the east of or west, like right where Broadview is. That kind of where the power outages are centered at right now. We have 326 members without uh, without power.
Yeah. That's that right there in that vicinity. You said AWALT, so that's the bluegill, that area over there off 130. So kind of the northern side of that. And then you said the Broadview area. So yeah, right where we were talking about that storm was strengthening. So um, it doesn't take much sometimes with some of these trees to get just a right gust of wind. And that's something also just to keep in mind with folks. Severe thunderstorm warnings, yes, obviously they cause damage, but storms that aren't even severe with just a right gust of wind can also cause damage. I know all the time
Mhm.
when we have strong storms where I live in Partellahoma, driving over to West to go to school in the morning, there'll be limbs and everything in the road. It's kind of like trying to dodge and make sure you don't blow your tire out, trying to get to work. But yes, that's definitely one of those situations. So again, as Elijah said, we're kind of on here and staying on just because we do have a severe thunderstorm warning. That's going to should be expiring here. Either that or they're going to trim it in 3 minutes, and probably not include parts of Franklin County. I say that, and assuming can also make something of you. So, but the majority of that storm, it's pretty obvious to see it has stayed in that eastern. I mean, it's traveling due east. Um, Now that storm has kind of strengthened and gone back and forth. And little note right here. If you notice that particular storm as I pull down here, why it's got that big hole in it is because that's where the radar site is, and that's what's called the cone of silence, and that's an area, a radius around the radar where it basically cannot, it can show what's going on there, but there's so many trees and vegetation that it really cloudies and dirties the echo returns. So they cut that ring off to let people, so yes, if you lived up and down 79 right near that, you'll never know what it looks like. You'd have to go outside, but that's what they call the cone of silence. So if you ever see that, and why that storm's passing over the radar, that's why that's got just a blank uh, donut hole right there, because of the vegetation. That radar sits at 1,800 feet above elevation anyway, but it's still a lot of trees in that area. If you guys have been over there to Northwest Alabama, it's, I mean, it's beautiful. The houses up there are beautiful, but it's pretty secluded. Um, so we got, like I said, just a couple more minutes here. I'll go back and zoom out to the big picture here. Like you said, uh, my computer is wanting to be a little slow today. I don't know why. I don't know what I've done to it to make it slow, but it's wanting to today. It's not wanting to get with it. You MacBook, you better get on it. Yeah, I don't know.
I'm taking I'm putting a report in here in the chat room for one of my buddies in Northwest Alabama real quick here. Since we don't have any warnings we're really messing with right this moment, I'm going to post this.
So the National Weather Service will expire the warning for north central Jackson and southeast Franklin County at 9:45. So they are going to allow that warning to expire. And I'm going to look and see from Nashville if anything. I just see where you posted that.
The page is on tonight, and she would be telling us if there was anything urgent there with any of these storms moving into Bedford County. And they actually that special weather statement just expired for Bedford County. So that Dollar General severe thunderstorm warning is gone now, I think.
Well,
Um,
and kind of as we expected, these storms have died off to the point where it's time.
yeah,
So now the severe thunderstorm warning has been allowed to expire. It's gone. So I would say at this point we will continue to monitor the storms. I'll never say never, but the likelihood of us coming back live at this point looks to be fairly slim. All the activity that's still warranting severeness is to our southwest. And if you've noticed, the storm track of those have not really moved into our area. So if anybody's wondering, well, oh, and you can see it right there too. These are going to start dying themselves out. I do believe that's an outflow boundary right there on the radar, is it not?
yeah, yeah. That's an
And
outflow boundary moving into Lincoln County.
so if you're in parts of Lincoln County, and that's probably traveling more of the northeast component as these have been, it looks like that. If you get a gust of wind that hits random and you're like, what in the world was that? That is the outflow boundary from these storms right here. So again, as Elijah said, that's a weakening of the storms. That is a sign, especially in this environment, that these storms really can't grow anymore. That cold air pushes out, it basically cuts off the airflow. It's like you're choking out the storm is basically what's happening. And so while these storms have been allowed to thrive, this part right here is going to die off. And
Yeah,
that would be pretty much the extent of anything. Now there's that strong storm that's still over Winchester. Winchester, it's probably coming down in buckets still. It's still again traveling basically up that 64 component, maybe traveling more between 127 and 64 as it treks off to the northeast. But again, nothing's showing any signs of strengthening. And I would very well know that they would allow that to expire at 10 o'clock as well.
yeah.
Uh,
None of these storms are particularly strong at this point. And I think there's still some heavy rain, like Christopher was saying, Winchester, Deckard, maybe moving up into Swanee as well in the next little bit. Shelbyville getting a lot of heavy rainfall right now as well. Moving into going move up into Wartrace and Normandy here in just a minute. But in terms of strong to severe thunderstorms, not a not anything severe. And again, let's make sure that we tell the viewers here, for a storm to be severe by definition, and there's been a lot of research on what it takes for a thunderstorm to cause damage. And you need at least winds up to 60 miles an hour or greater, and then also hail up to the size of quarters. Okay. So if your thunderstorm does not have any of those two things, that does not make it severe. Sometimes we will have, gusty winds that come through, but that doesn't make it severe. It has to have 60 plus mile per hour winds for it to be severe.
That's
So
exactly right.
just be sure to keep that in mind too. It could be the loudest storm you've ever encountered before in your entire life, but it may not be severe, just because it takes a lot of different variables to make it severe, and lightning is not one of them. Believe it or not, lightning and
Abs-
rain.
that's absolutely right. Let me put you over here, Elijah. Hang on just a second. I'm gonna put you where we're. Well, it's just you. Now I need me. Let's see, add me right. There we go. And I had it right. Otherwise, we would have had our names on the opposite side. I just went to where we were speaking because at this point I think it's safe to say let's go ahead and call it a night and let everybody get on about their business and go to sleep. So
Yes, I think so too. And if there's anything else that happens to pop up, we'll be keeping an eye on things as the evening goes on. But I think that for the most part, our severe weather threat is starting to die down here locally, at least for right now. So that's a good thing in my opinion.
absolutely. So, all right. Thank you guys for tuning in for severe weather coverage from Southern Tennessee Weather, the only local coverage for Southern Middle Tennessee. Often imitated, but we're the originals. We're the originators.
Yes,
So,
yes,
anyways,
absolutely.
guys, we thank you for your time. Guys, have a great evening. And like I said, if anything should change, Elijah and I will have you covered over there on the socials. Okay. So, guys, have a great rest of your evening.
Bye bye.
Bye.